everyone hear me? We're good? Cool. Good afternoon. It's lovely to have you here, and welcome to today's session, which, as Troy mentioned, it's going to be focusing on embracing digital innovation for B2B businesses. My name's Amy. I work for BigCommerce. For those that don't know BigCommerce, it is the leading e-commerce platform for B2B businesses. And I'm joined by two individuals who have actually been on the journey of that digital innovation piece within their B2B organisation. So I've got Andrew to my right, who is the Chief Information Officer at Joval. And I've got Omar from Platinum Health Supplies. He is the Director and Chief Marketing Officer. Can we give them a warm welcome, please, everyone? Brilliant. So, in my job, almost on a weekly basis, I am talking to businesses or individuals that are in this position where they've identified that they need to undergo a digital transformation, but they're coming up against two key challenges. So the first is they've kind of identified, they're like, all right, we need to go digital, but where they're getting stuck is, how do I actually articulate the value and the impact that that digital transformation is going to have on my business? The second hurdle they're then getting to is, how do I go internally and get the buy-in that I need and the change management piece to get this project underway, but also make it successful long term? So these are the topics that we're going to be talking through and tackling today. We are going to have a Q&A session at the end as well, so if you have a question pop into your mind, write it down, hold on to it. We want to get to it and make sure we're making this session as valuable as possible for you. Before we get into that big topic though, let's start with an easy question. Can you please both give us some background on yourselves, your role, and the companies that you're working for and what they do? To you, Andrew, first.
Okay, thanks, Amy. Good to be with you all. So, Andrew Stoneham. I'm the Chief Information Officer at Joval Group. We're a collection of businesses that work right across the Australian wine industry. So, it starts with, we own several wineries across Australia and New Zealand. We're the Australian wholesale distributor representing 150 local and international wine brands. And we also have a third-party logistics business that operates nationally that's really focused on logistics services for the premium beverage industry. And at the end of that, we've also got a glassware brand as well. So, B2B business, been around since the 1960s, so a really long history, and lots of complexity.
Beautiful. Omar De Guise here from Platinum Health Supply. Thank you very much for having me, guys. Appreciate the warm welcome, Amy. Platinum Health Supply is a medical distributor. We started the company 4 years ago, myself and my 3 business partners, to fill a gap in medical consumables throughout the pandemic. Very quickly, we went from 5 products to 10 to 100 to now 7,000 products that we sell nationwide across 5 warehouses. Our business sells to a range of different clients, featuring hospitals, some of the largest hospitals and aged cares in Australia, as well as the NDIS and home caring space.
Thank you both. So our first question for today is, what are some digital initiatives recently implemented in your business that have delivered significant value?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll start. Thank you. We've been on a pretty busy, transformation journey over the last few years. It probably started with a replacement of an ERP system across all of our group of companies, which was a bit of a monster. The other major one is we've recently launched what is the industry-leading customer portal, and that's been out there for about 6 months, and that's going really well. And the other thing we're now really focused on is automating a whole lot of our processes and using some smart AI to do that. So, it's a really busy time for us.
Our digital journey has been quite an interesting one. So when we entered the medical market, it was quite a dinosaur industry, I would say. So if you look at some of the clients, some of them actually still fax their orders through. So for us, it was coming into the industry and really showing who we truly were. So my business partners and I were all 24 years old when we started the company, so we're quite young. And a lot of our customers were telling us that we were a breath of fresh air. So we really took that by the horns and wanted to show them what it truly meant to be a young entrepreneur in that industry. So we started by digitizing the business in a way where, we were trying to have some operational efficiencies and really improve on, where we can, service our customers. So for us, we were focusing for the last 2 years on identifying what we can do with a portal. So we actually established a B2B portal and have customers that can now log in and place their purchase orders through that, and we did that through Shopify. But we also did a new ERP system and also recently launched a WMS. So that's been something that took us a bit of time, but obviously being quite young, we didn't have the experience, we were out of our depth, but we did get to know a lot of people, and I'll talk a little bit further about that down the line, but going into meeting different people in the communities that you're in, being part of conferences like this, it does open up your mind to a few things that you can do. So yeah, I'd say most of our focus was on the portal last year, and WMS and the ERP.
Brilliant. Now, I think it's a fair comment to say that most B2B businesses are agreeing that a digital transformation is needed to improve productivity, customer service, and also bottom line revenues. But they're often being held back. What is it that you think is holding these B2B businesses back from undergoing a digital transformation?
Yeah, I mean, in my experience, there's really two key parts to this. The first is, I think, just the sheer complexity of B2B businesses. And if you're visiting today and you're from that B2C stream, that side of the world, it's, I don't know, it's just really, really complicated at every level. And I think that puts a real strain on delivering things quickly. A lot of off-the-shelf technology solutions really struggle with that complexity. So it's navigating that is a huge challenge. And the other one for me is cultural change as well. So I'm working in a business that's been around since 1960. We service everyone from the biggest retailers in the country right down to the local cafe that may only buy, one box of wine a year. And we need an approach to suit all of those channels. And I think in driving a lot of digital innovation, as well as the internal change on a workforce that's been doing things for a really long period of time, you're also navigating how do you change some of that customer behaviour to take advantage of those digital solutions. And often a lot of that is out of your full control. It's something you can influence, but it's not always something that you can really mandate, and nor should you. So that's the two key ones for me.
I'd say for us it comes down to two things: customers and partners. So your customers ultimately should drive your digital innovations. What are the customers saying? How can you improve your processes to make sure that the desired outcome in turn solves a problem for the customer? And then the second thing would be your partners. Your partners are the agencies that you work with, the people that you get on board to be able to solve the problems that you're trying to face. So for us, I would say a huge issue was identifying the right partners to solve our issues. And another one was even identifying the issue from the beginning to be able to then convey that message to the partners. So everyone throws their hands up and says, yeah, I'll be able to help. I'll be able to do whatever you need me to do. But if you haven't ultimately found the problem, then how are you really going to in turn do that? So for us, it's really understanding that the work was in the prep. The work was in identifying what the issue was to be able to convey that message then across to the partners, and hopefully the customers in turn get a good result from that.
Just mentioned identifying issues, and that flows very nicely into my next question, which is, what do you think the most important issues or barriers are that B2B businesses are facing that they need to address in order to move forward with a digital transformation?
Yeah, I mean, for me, if I was to say number one, it would definitely be navigating that cultural change that's required to really shift from what we've been doing for a really, really long time that hasn't been unsuccessful, and as a business we've been really successful, to, I guess, moving to that state where we're actually doing things quite differently. And it is at the internal level, but also that customer level as well. Yeah. And for me, that's been the number one focus.
How did you tackle the customer piece? Was it a phased approach with getting them online, or?
It's a good question. I know we recently launched, we've got the best in industry customer portal, and that's no accident. And what we did was there was a huge focus on the upfront design. And what we didn't just get a couple of sales guys in the room to go, how does this thing need to work? We actually did a week-long design sprint where we identified who are the real key customers in each of the channels that we work with. Who are those key internal people, whether they're in the sales team or accounts receivable, all those different stakeholders. And we actually got everyone in a room, did a proper design sprint. And, we incentivised the customers to come in. We didn't say, jump on a phone call. We actually said, we're going to give you this generous wine allowance because it's really valuable that we get your input. And we did. We had wine buyers and sommeliers come in on their day off to, with the design team, go through that whole customer journey of what's going to be the best way to do this for you. And even taking it a step earlier, we actually went out and visited a lot of our key customers in the field to really understand how do they order. Because it's one thing to go, this is a really nice site. It's another to stand next to a wine buyer down in the cellar after a long weekend who actually buys from 5 different wine suppliers, and they're all a phone call. They're not using a portal. Really understanding that scenario and what we can do in terms of the product to make it something that's far more compelling than just ringing us up.
Yeah, it's a really interesting take there, because I think it's something that B2B businesses miss a lot is let's actually think about the customer and how do they want to order and what are they asking for. So it's good to hear you did that. Omar, going back to that question, what do you think?
Just repeat it so I can...
Yeah, for sure. What are the most important issues or barriers that are holding businesses back from going into their digital transformation? Which ones do they need to address?
Yeah, no, I think it ties back to my answer before as well. A big part of that was those two major focuses, which is the customers and the partners. But absolutely, I think the prep is the most important part. As you said, you got that sprint that you guys were doing, which I would have loved to be invited to. But anyways, that's another discussion. But ultimately for us, absolutely, it's testing and testing. Without preparation, unfortunately, you don't have a baseline to work off that's good enough to be able to convey the message to your partners. So, you need to be aligned, and through alignment, you will be able to get that desired outcome for your customers. So yeah, it just ties back really to my last answer.
Brilliant. Next question. In your opinion, what does it mean to be a digital first business? Who wants to take it?
Can I go ahead? By definition, really, digital first means to be an organisation that is looking to improve operational efficiencies through digital innovations. For us, though, it is that and more. And what I mean by more is you've got your organisation that needs to be, your organisation is driven by the people, right? The people make the company. The same rule applies for systems. The people run the systems. Right? And the data drives the systems. You need to have these two things down pat, because the people that you hire in your company need to believe in what they're operating, and then the data that they're inputting into the system needs to be accurate, so then that way the system is doing what it's intended to do. So for us, it's actually more than just looking at a system saying, okay, no worries, yep, that's the one. Rather, it is identifying, okay, fantastic, is this person the right person for this system to be operated in the right way? So that's actually done through our hiring process as well. And we try to identify as much as possible, are these people the right people to bring into our organisation to be able to convey the same message we're trying to with our business? And that's what it means for us.
Yeah, that's in line with what I'm seeing 100%. Probably the only thing I'd add to that is, I think digital first is, for me, what I take away from that as well is it's not digital everything. And one of the things we've been really mindful in our business of is, I know when I started, it was just all about, I want to make this process amazing and then automate it. I've almost landed on a far more pragmatic middle ground where there's things now where I go, actually, it's not broken. And if I look at how that department is performing in terms of those standard metrics, they're pretty good. And there's actually far more valuable areas that we can focus our resources on. So, yeah, I think one of the key things for me is I've softened a little bit. I went in pretty dogmatic. But these days, I think, digital first, but not digital always.
You don't have to change everything all at once. It tends to scare people.
That's right.
Speaking of people, and Omar, you kind of touched on this with your hiring process, and Andrew, you alluded to it with the cultural management piece. What strategies have you found to be effective in driving digital change management and gaining internal buy-in within your organisation to do what you're trying to do?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. There's been a number of things for us. The first one, which I think is the most important, is building cross-functional teams. When I started, it was a pretty traditional, business model where you've got the siloed departments, and I came in as an IT leader, but it's kind of evolved over time to now our department's called Business Improvement and Technology, and we do everything from facilitating the business strategy, setting up those programs of work, that PMO kind of function, business improvement analysts, as well as the enabling technology and digital side of things. And I've found that has been super important. And, with some projects I started with department leads where I kind of, in each department, went, who's that real change champion that can get involved early? And what I've found over time is most of those roles, those people have had the chance to really step up and got passionate about improving their area. And a lot of those guys work in my team now, rather than being, we've got to go and talk to that part of the business about this, that and the other. You've got that really credible person from that area who's now really focused on change and improving things, and who actually has the bandwidth to do that. And I found setting up that structure, it's just made a world of difference in terms of progress and really getting things done.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, for us, it's very much so the same. I would absolutely say that. We definitely like to bring everyone on the journey very early on when it comes to digital innovations. So what we like to do is have everyone in a room and tell them, show them, bring them on part of the journey very early on. So then that way they're beating the same drum that you are. A lot of the time, as I said, we're quite young entrepreneurs. When it came to digital innovations, everyone was on board because we would tell them about what the customers were saying. Oh, the customers were saying they were so excited to be dealing with Platinum Health Supply, these young, hungry salespeople and entrepreneurs that really wanted to change the industry. So for us, pretty much everyone that was on board with us knew that's where we were headed. And that's because we would give the spiel early on, like this is who we are and this is where we're going. I think to definitely bring people into the journey very early on, it does make them feel a part of it. And also when there's a bit of sweat equity, that's also very important. So people that have, even if they've given us feedback, they've given effort. And when you give effort into something, you feel like you're part of building that thing. So you become an advocate for it by the end of it, rather than someone that's just using it and they're sitting there, unfortunately not wanting to use it because, there's change involved and whatnot. So.
Yeah, I think it's what a lot of businesses struggle with, is how do we actually foster that innovative culture internally, so that when there is a change, which is inevitable in technology, we don't get that pushback or it's not as difficult to move forward. So my final question is, what advice would you give to B2B businesses looking to adopt a digital-first mindset?
Go ahead.
Sure. Number one for me, as I said earlier, getting those cross-functional teams is really super critical to making meaningful progress. The other thing for me, it's really building that engagement and awareness kind of at all levels of the business. Like, most of my job is actually talking to people about this stuff, whether it's the executive team and even the people on the front line. And, we've invested a fair bit, and just things like AI's come along, Copilot. It's not just for the technology guys to have a play with. We've done, the art of the possible workshops and involved a whole lot of people from our front lines to really build that awareness. And even some of our automation efforts, we've done, one-day introductory training in the automation platform for a whole lot of frontline people as well, and not necessarily asking them to build solutions, but just giving them that awareness that, you can actually do this differently, and it's not pie in the sky stuff. It's here and now, and we've got some skills in-house, and yeah, just really starting to get those ideas coming through. Yeah.
Yeah, I think definitely that was along the lines of what I was going to say, but also I'm part of a couple of organisations that do promote B2B digitisation in organisations. So one is run by Brett Sinclair, and he is part of the B2B Commerce Association. So for 3 days you go to Queensland, and we stay at the Sheraton, and we have a couple of days where we go and speak to vendors and organisations just like ours are part of the community where they can speak to people, understand the technologies, and then come back with that information, relay it to everyone that's part of the organisation. But you've got great insight from these people. You've got genuine people actually trying to help your digitisation. So for me, it was really important having that expertise. And then also it's having people on board in the organisation that have the expertise as well. So in our crowd, we've also got our CEO, Afshin, and he comes from a background in telecommunications and DevOps. So when he came into the organisation, he basically looked at everything and said, this is what we can do to create more operational efficiencies and drive change. And everyone was on board for it because not only do we hear it, but we see how much benefit it can give to the organisation. So that's what I would say. Yeah, being part of the organisation and bringing people in.
I think you need to start charging Brett for all the shout outs you give him.
I might have a commission agreement already.
I did want to leave time for the audience to ask questions because we've got two great panellists here with some awesome experience. So I'm going to turn to the audience. Are there any questions from anyone? Don't be shy. Yay!
So I guess my question was to Andrew on how they approach the different business units, considering that they have their own day-to-day roles and responsibility, and how did they manage to get those resources freed up and allocated to the project, and manage to work with them, and how did they manage to convince the senior management in the organisation to actually allow that to happen?
Yeah, it's a really great question, thank you. And probably one of the biggest challenges, and I think most businesses are in the same boat. In every department, you have that person that if they're not there, it gets really tough. They're really relied on, all the rest of it. It was getting that real senior leader buy-in, like the CEO was fully on board with this in terms of, if we're really going to get better, we need our best people actually working on the business, not in the business. And it was a bit of a gradual process. There was a couple that I was able to get full-time, and there was our ERP project that sort of initiated this, where we said, okay, there's so much change for that department. We need a full-time person in this project on the ground, really representing that team. I found it's been overwhelmingly positive in that other people have had the chance to step up. And I think there hasn't been any exceptions. In each of the departments, we've actually found someone else that has been willing to step up, take on some more responsibility. In a lot of cases, that lead person has still been part-time, hand-holding for a period, but we've got to a point now where those roles have been able to step out of their departments and let those other people just get on with it.
The importance of the customers early on, getting their involvement, but also once you're rolling it out. So what was it that really attracted customers to use the portal? And also you talked about it being industry leading. What is it about it that makes it industry leading?
Yeah, I think the thing about it is it caters for the really complex needs of wine customers. Like we have a whole bunch of really crazy complexity in the wine industry, and if I look at our competitors, they've all gone on to deliver very B2C-like websites that a customer can purchase on. And I think what set us apart is the amount of design work we did up front. A really simple example is our customers don't want to spend hours on our website. The goal is actually I'm running a restaurant here. You know, if I can't order quicker than a phone call, I'm actually not going to use this thing. So is the amount of work up front, just into, you know, they log into our site, we know it's 95% top-up orders. We present, as soon as they log in, here's what you've ordered in the last 90 days. They just toggle one of those, one of those, one of those. Works on mobile, bang, under a minute. They've completed their order. It's actually far quicker than a phone call and far less hassle than sending an email. And if we weren't able to deliver that, they wouldn't be using it.
What platform did you use?
It's a platform called BigCommerce, and worked with a partner called Allegiant, who are absolutely fantastic. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes.
Hi. I think you both mentioned the importance of partners and how that can be one of the holdbacks for. Can you hear me, or do I have to yell louder? Yeah. Okay. So how do you go about actually choosing partners if that's one of the holdbacks?
Yeah, I think I touched on that earlier. For us, I mean, just like anything, there's a bit of a tender process, right? You have to identify, what you want and then put it out into the market. For us, it was referrals. So being part of these associations that I am a part of, as I said, when you go to these events, you actually end up meeting about 5 to 10 different partners, and they're all sort of doing the same thing. And then it comes down to relationship. So of course, you want to make sure that you get along with them. And then it comes down to alignment. Have they done this before? You've got a bit of a process of elimination, I would suppose. But in turn, really, a lot of the time, it comes down to the work that you've done initially to help them get the answer. So then that way you feel comfortable with the way you're moving forward. And that's why I harped on a little bit about doing the work prior, so then that way you can identify the right partner. Because if you just tell anyone what you want and you haven't done the work, unfortunately, everyone's going to put their hand up and go, I can do it. But if you then go in depth and tell them your real problems and what you actually want to, and the extent of it, a lot of them will put their hand down and say, I actually can't do it. But the ones that can will. So that's what we've done, and that worked well for us.
Yeah, agree with that 100%. And just to add, it's partners that have worked in B2B before, and knowing that you've got resources who've had a background in B2B and kind of get it, because it's, to explain to a non-B2B person, it is mind-boggling, the stuff that you come up against. So yeah, it's partners that have been there and done it, have people that have worked in that space and really understand it. That's just key for me.
Thank you. Any other questions from the panel? If not, please join me in thanking Amy, Andrew, and Omar.
Good job, guys.